The first module, we're going to talk about what you have to do before you agree to act for any client in relation to buying or selling land. And there are three things you have to do. You have to provide them with information about the fees and charges that you're going to impose. You're going to tell them about the services you provide to any potential buyers or actual buyers, and you're going to define certain phrases if you use them. Now, generally this is a simple process. There's a simple way of complying, and that is that you put this information in your terms of business. If you provide this information in your terms of business, then all you need to make sure is that you get signatures on those terms of business and you will have met these obligations. So the first one in relation to fees and charges means you have to tell your potential clients what you're going to charge them. What is the fee? If you can't tell them what your fee is, because quite often you're on a percentage fee, so you have to tell them what the calculation will be. So it's 1% plus VAT. You have to give them full details of any other payments they might be liable for, and that will include potential for advertising costs, for displaying boards, for producing coloured brochures, etc. Tell them exactly what you're going to charge. If you can't tell them exactly what you're going to charge, then give them estimates, and also tell them when the fees will become payable, so that they're fully aware of everything they need to know as far as fees are concerned. So in general terms, you would put a clause in your terms which says our fees are 1% plus VAT. Make sure you also outline that that is 1.2% including VAT, because the legislation now requires you to quote your fees including VAT. Also, tell them what the fee will actually be. So if the property sells at the asking price, then the fee will be X amount including VAT. And the Ombudsman requires you to explain to them that if the property sells at a higher or lower figure than the asking price, then the fee will increase or decrease accordingly. You also then have to outline what services you will be providing to buyers. You will provide potentially lots of services to buyers, and because there might be a potential for a conflict of interest, then you have to tell your client what services you will be providing. So it might be estate agency services, it might be letting agency services, it might be financial services, legal services, even removal services. Whatever services you provide or any third parties provide where you're going to make some commission out of that, then you have to outline that in your terms of business. And again, a straightforward clause outlining what you will provide and the fees that you might get is sufficient. The third thing you have to do is outline whether you're on sole agency, sole selling rights, multiple agency, joint agency. And if you're on sole agency, there is a definition that you have to put in there that's outlined in the Estate Agents Act. And this definition for sole agency says, if we find a buyer for you, you will have to pay us a fee. If we have negotiations with a buyer, you will have to pay us a fee. If another agent introduces a buyer, you will have to pay us a fee. That's because you're appointed as the sole agent, and so therefore they're not really entitled to appoint another agent, and they might have to pay 2 fees if they do. So that's sole agency. Sole selling rights is slightly different. It gives you more protection in relation to obtaining a fee. But again, it says if we introduce the buyer, if we have negotiations with the buyer, if another agent introduces the buyer, then our fee will be payable. But it also says, because we've got sole selling rights, we're entitled to our fee if the property sells in any other circumstances. The third one is ready, willing and able purchaser. If you require payment, if you find a ready, willing and able purchaser and the seller decides not to sell to that person, you will be expecting your fee. And if you do that, you explain what a ready, willing and able purchaser is, and you explain when that fee will be payable. These are the requirements of the Estate Agents Act before you agree to act.